Okay, I've got to catalog this one. This is probably the best pound cake recipe I have found to date. It has all the usual ingredients of a pound cake, but something strikes a chord in me that takes me way back to being a young girl and growing up on a farm. Go back in time with me for just a second. It's summertime in the deep south, and summer means a very large vegetable garden. The menfolk were out early, picking the sweet corn by hand while it was fresh and while the nighttime hours had replenished its moisture from the previous day, and because they knew it would be scorching hot later in the day. The ladies and us kids were setting up workstations under the many pecan trees that were at the edge of the garden. One station for shucking, one for silking, one for blanching, one for cutting or creaming, and one for bagging it and getting it ready for the freezer. This would be an all-day task. Well, after about 4 hours of processing corn, you are hot and you are sticky. Not only sticky from the heat, but sticky from the corn. But all of a sudden, you hear the slamming of a screen door up at the farmhouse, and your weariness just perks up a little bit and a smile slips across your face, because you know that's Granny coming from her kitchen. She would have a cooler packed full of ice-cold Coca-Colas. You could hear them fizz as she popped the top and started handing them out to all the helpers. Then she would give us all a slice of the best-tasting pound cake ever, still warm from the oven. It would melt in your mouth. No fancy ingredients, but oh, how delicious it was. I remember just sitting there in the cool shade, pressing that ice-cold bottle against my neck, and I may as well have been in an air-conditioned room. My heat had been temporarily relieved, and my hunger had been satisfied, and that is what this cake says to me. Now, I could go on and on down memory lane, but this is just a video of a pound cake. Let me show you how I made it. Let me start out by saying I found this recipe in Southern Grit Cookbook, 100 plus down-home recipes for the modern cook by Miss Kelsey Barnard Clark. I'll also insert a snapshot of the recipe right here. You can always stop your video and write it down or take a screenshot. It's called Miss Rodman's Cream Cheese Pound Cake, and it starts out with 3 cups of sugar and 3 sticks of butter and 1 8-ounce block of cream cheese, and we're going to cream all that together. Once creamed, we're going to start adding our eggs. Now this recipe calls for 6 eggs, and with any cake or pound cake recipe, they usually ask you to add them 1 at a time. I sometimes do them 2 at a time, but the point is to mix them well after each addition. Now I stir in the flour, and I do this 1 cup at the time. In goes 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of vanilla. I sometimes use cream bouquet in place of the vanilla. In goes the 2nd cup of all-purpose flour. And now the 3rd. Now that it's mixed really well, I'm going to use some Baker's Joy and spray my well-loved Bundt baking pan. I have used this pan for years and it has baked many cakes. Now, she's off to a 325-degree oven, and the recipe says bake it for 60 to 90 minutes in a Bundt pan. My oven hovers around, it takes an hour and 10 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. Let it cool for 10 to 15 minutes, and then turn it out onto a cake plate or a cake board. This was still a little bit too hot for cutting, but I do enjoy a piece warm from the oven. Oh, let me insert a little side note here. This is a delicious cake, and I have made it many times. But one of the times that I was making it, there was company in the house, and Charlotte was around me in the kitchen, and I was making the cake and talking and laughing, and then I realized, oh no, I don't know how many cups of flour I've put in this cake. Have I put 2 or have I put 3? And I was afraid to put another cup, because what if I had put 3 and this would have been the 4th cup? I did not pre-measure it this time because I'd made it several times. So I went ahead and I baked the cake, and I really thought at the time I had made a huge mistake. But anyway, I took that cake out of the oven after it got done, and again, family was here, so as it was cooling, before it cooled, it was still warm, I cut everybody a slice and took it to them, and they just loved it. They're like, what's different? This is different than last time. What's different? And I said, well, I'm not sure. It's either got 2 cups of flour or 2.5 cups of flour, but it does not have 3, and I'm not sure. I share this because now every time I make this cake, I only use 2 cups of flour. Now it makes it a little eggier. It does not rise quite as high, but you talk about moist and delicious. It sits by my coffee pot. It sits by my daughter and her husband's coffee pot. It is delicious. Now the cake is great with 3 cups of flour. What I like about this one is, normally when you make a cream cheese based pound cake, you kind of want to cut the topping off because the topping is the best part. This one, the cream cheese flavor goes all the way through the cake. You can eat the cake plain. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need anything on it. It is flavorful all the way through. It is not dry, and that's with 3 cups. But I tell you, I stumbled on that 2-cup deal. And now every time I make it, just for us now, I don't take it off that way, but just for us, it has 2 cups of flour, and it is delicious. And now every time I turn around, this is what my cake plate looks like. But anyway, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I had to catalog or make a recording of this one because it is definitely a keeper. I hope y'all give it a try, and I'll talk to you later.